In this tutorial, we'll be setting up the development environment required to follow along with this series. We will be downloading Atom in order to write our code, installing Python, and be setting it up to run globally on our system, creating a project folder to store our Python scripts, and be running our first Python script that we create to test that everything is working correctly. We will also be briefly discussing comments and syntax within Python. The development environment we will create will be kept simplistic to minimize setup time and resources and to get you coding as quickly as possible. Let's begin by installing Atom. We'll open a browser and navigate to atom.io. I've already got Atom installed on my system, so it's just a matter of following along, downloading the file and installing. Once you have Atom installed, we need to download Python. Simply type Python into a search engine and under python.org we'll navigate to the downloads. Here we have multiple versions of Python. It's best to think of it as Python 2 and Python 3. No further updates to Python 2 will be made, so we'll concentrate on Python 3. We'll hit the download Python, open the file, install. Once successfully installed, we'll close this. I'll close the browser for now. In our Windows search bar, I'm just going to type CMD to open a command prompt. Now this is going to fail. We'll call our Python installation. As we don't have it specified globally, we'll be unable to access it within our current directory. In order to make it accessible globally, we need to go to our global variables. So in the start bar, we can type var, and we're looking for edit the system environment variables. We'll click on that, and then we'll go to environment variables. This will be a place that we can reference directories in order to access whatever executable we need to access, regardless of what file we are currently pointing to within our command prompt. First, we need to figure out where Python is kept. I'm going to, again, in our start bar, just type py. We've got our Python 3.9 installation. I'll right click on this. Now we can click Open File Location. This will open up File Explorer, but this isn't the directory where our Python installation is kept. This is just a shortcut to it. So again, we'll right click on it, go to Properties, and the directory we want is the start in. I'll copy this directory by Control A, Control C, and then in our File Explorer, I'll hit Control V. So the location should be something along the lines of app data, local programs, Python 3.9, and I'll just hit enter. And we've got our application file for Python located here. So this is the directory we need to copy. We need to set a new path here to be able to find our executable for Python. With path highlighted, we'll hit edit, we'll hit new, and then we'll just paste the directory that we just copied, hit OK. We also need, in the system variables, highlight path, edit, new, and paste it in there as well. One last thing we'll do is hit within user variables for user, hit new, we'll type Python for variable name, and then again Control V to paste the location of the file directory where Python is located. Hit OK. Now, we recently opened this command prompt, but we'll have to close this one down and open a new one. CMD. Now if we type Python -- version, we now have access to Python by having our system navigate to where we've installed our Python application. In order to run Python, we can type Python, and this will give us a prompt so we can write Python code. And execute it. If you don't understand what this means at the moment, that's fine. But we do have Python up and running, which is what we want. I'm just going to close down this command prompt. Now, as we've got Atom installed and we have Python installed, we can get to creating our directory where we want to store whatever we code. I'm just going to go to Documents. I'm going to right click and create a new folder. I'll call this Python Basics, and once created, I'll open it. I'm going to copy the directory name, Control C, open a new command prompt, CMD, type CD for change directory, and then paste the directory name of where we'll be storing our code. So this will change directory to our Python Basics folder. Here we can access Atom, and then we can put a space and then a full stop. This command will open the file we just created within Atom. This is the file we just created. It's empty at the moment, but if we right click, we'll create a new file. I'll call this main.py to indicate that it's a Python file. Back in our file explorer, we now have a new Python file created within our Python Basics. We'll begin by writing our basic boilerplate code that we need to be able to run a script. Don't worry if you don't understand this code, just follow along. We'll first write def to define a function. The function will be main, and then we'll add a colon afterwards. I'm going to hit enter to go to the next line, and you'll notice here that there's a bit of space from the beginning of the line to where we begin writing our code. This is important, and we'll get to that in a moment. I'm going to type print, and in parentheses type success. Now here we need to begin at the beginning of the line rather than where it leaves us once we hit enter. So I'm just going to hit backspace from here and type if underscore underscore name underscore underscore, then two equal signs, and then within double quotes I'm going to type underscore underscore main underscore underscore, and then after we've typed main, just another colon. I'm going to hit enter again and then type main and then a set of parentheses. What this is basically saying is if this variable is set to main, then we're going to run this function. This function is defined up here. And once we run that function, it's going to print this set of text. Again, it doesn't matter if you don't understand this. We'll get to it in a moment. The main takeaway here is that we are defining blocks of code by indentation. That's one very important thing that you'll need to get right in order to have this run successfully. I'm going to save this. In Atom, we can right click on our folder and then we can select copy full path. If you don't have a command prompt open, go back to our search bar and type CMD and then open command prompt. Now I'm going to type CD and then hit Control V to paste in the file path for our main project directory. And from here I'm going to type Python main.py. Now this is going to run the script that we've just created. And we see we print out the string of success. I'm just going to make some more space up here by moving our cursor right to the top left and hitting enter a couple of times. Comments can be used to explain the purpose and function of Python code. They can be used to make the code more readable and can be used to prevent execution when testing code. Comments start with a £sign or hashtag, and Python will ignore all the text that follows it. We'll create an example. I'll write a £sign that in and of itself is an example of a commented out bit of text, but just for clarity, this is a comment. A comment does not have to be text that explains the code. It can also be used to prevent Python from executing code. For this example, I'll just create a print function and print out this is not commented. I'll save this. I have to change directory back into our project folder because I closed the command prompt before. Now we run Python main.py and we've printed out this is not commented. But if we do comment this out, save, rerun the script, you'll notice that we no longer have the string printing out. Python does not really have a syntax for writing multi-line comments, but to add multi-line comments you can insert a £sign for each line. I'll just write 3 fragments of text, put them on multiple lines, Now this is going to throw an error. I'll just give a quick demonstration of that. We're using invalid syntax. Comment all these out. We just add a pound sign in front of each of the strings. I'm just going to type CLS in command prompt to clear the screen. When using Atom to write code, you can also highlight the text you wish to comment out and hit the control and the / buttons simultaneously to add a pound sign to each line. I'll just delete these pound signs. Then I'll highlight these with the cursor. I'll hold down control and then I'll hit /. This has commented out all the lines of text. We can uncomment it out by holding down control and hitting the /. That's the basics of comments. Now we'll look into syntax of Python in regards to indentation. Syntax in Python is very important. Python uses indentation to indicate a block of code, such as this. Indentation refers to the space at the beginning of a code line. Here we've got no space, but here we have a spacing of tab. I'll just delete the spacing and then I'll hit tab. Now we've got our indentation to indicate that this print function is in this main functions block of code. Similarly, with our reference to our main function here, it is a part of this block of code. Whereas in other programming languages, the indentation in code is for readability only. The indentation for Python is very important. The number of spaces to use is up to you as a programmer, but it has to be at least one space. So we could have, I'll just press the space bar, that's valid. But we couldn't have, I've just hit the tab key again, print, fail. We've got an indent error here. We'll just remove that tab spacing by hitting backspace. I'll save. We also can't have let's say 2 spaces. Indent does not match any outer indentation level. Indentation is just a matter of practice. Once we get into some substantial coding, it'll become clearer. So that concludes the setup tutorial. The main takeaways from the tutorial are how to install Python onto your system and make it accessible from any file directory on your system. Testing to make sure you can access Python through the command prompt and through scripts. Understanding that syntax in regards to indentation is important in Python, more so than other programming languages, and that comments can be used for explaining what code does and also for testing purposes. In the next tutorial, we'll be looking at the concept of variables.